Okay, so plan for today is to drain a bit more of the bike, so get the oil out, get the coolant out, potentially remove the air box. I want to try and get this off today because I really want to try and strip a little bit of this front end down because the back's sort of done. This is kind of the next sort of area. The other thing I want to try as well is the bike jack that I've got. Is one of those sort of fork bike jacks, which is great for frames that run underneath bikes, but of course the Ducati doesn't. It's a trellis frame, so the engine is suspended, which means that you need to lift the bike off the crankcase. The problem with this bike is that the centre of gravity is not directly on the crankcase. So if you lift it up from that, the bike tips forward slightly. So we're trying out a sort of a sandbox idea, make a sort of a solid box filled with sand, which will cover to allow the crankcase to effectively fall into that and bed that in to stabilise it, and then lift it up from that, which should be able to shift the centre of gravity. That's the plan. It might go horribly wrong, and if it does, well then at least you know not to try this idea. But it's a way of, what we want to try and do is use the existing jack to get this bike up at a more workable level and a movable level, so I can move it around the garage over the coming months. Yeah, so that's the plan for today. Get the bike drained, try the sandbox idea, maybe take off the airbox and try and strip a little bit off the front. So let's get cracking. The next thing I really want to do is get this front bracket off, which of course is the bracket that's housing the headlight, the dash. It's also the regular rectifiers inside there, and that's the air scoop for the airbox, which ultimately I think I might want to take off. So in order to get this whole bracket off, we need to disconnect the majority of the front of the loom, well, the whole front of the loom for the electrics. Like most people, electrics terrified the bejesus out of me. So what I'm going to be doing is figuring out what everything is first, unplugging it and then labeling it. I'm going to photograph it as well in case labels fade over time. I don't know how long it's going to be before they all get back together again. So that is the plan. Disconnect all the bits that are connected to this front piece here, label everything up, so hopefully everything is nice and organised for later on. Cool, so let's get show you something. I'm just taking the airbox or the air filter off, and got a bit of rattling going on inside here. You look inside, there's a bit of dirt and stuff, but I can show you this. There are seeds, basically, tiny little pips and seeds, sort of bird seed kind of thing. And if we look at this here, there are even more in some of the fins. So I don't know whether this is obviously this is the bit that was facing the air intake that way. Whether it's just stuff that's come in and kind of rubbed all this off, which is, I guess, a possibility, or has some small little rodent managed to actually, when this has been laid up over winter, crawled inside here and made a bit of a nest. Well, no idea, but wasn't expecting to find this kind of crap, as well as bits of seeds and other bits and pieces in between the fins of the filter. But there we go. Okay, so I'm just going to bring you around here because a lot of stuff's been going, all the problems seem to be on this side rather than on the time-lapse side. So, in order to take the airbox off, you've got these two sort of rods at the back that you simply unscrew, and then if you look through there you go, just down there, there's another bolt that holds it on. To get to that, you need to come up from underneath, and the angle of the radiator is a little bit cute to get a socket on it. So the radiator is probably going to come off anyway. So in the meantime, over down here, I've just taken the bottom of this radiator tube off using this little ring clip. That came off nice and easily. Obviously that drained the radiator. You may have seen over here, I just took the top radiator plug off just to get the airflow in order to drain it a little bit quicker. This little rubber bushing up here just pops off. It's held in place with this little fella. So that just sits inside there through the bushing, so you can just pop that off and that comes off there. back round here, there's another one which you can't quite see is behind that pipe. It's one of these, and that's just an Allen key to take that out. So that takes off the two on the left hand side. On the right hand side over here, this rubber bushing up here then just needs to be slid off. So it all comes off to the right once you've got the other two released. That takes the whole radiator off. Finally, something else that caused a little bit of problem was this little attachment, obviously for the fan. It was hooked up onto the wiring loom up behind here, so just a little bit fiddly to get that off and clipped off. So we're all good. The only thing that's causing me a problem is this rusted ring clip here. I've soaked it in penetrating oil for a while. I've tried to get a couple of screwdrivers on it. Someone's already had a bit of a go on it and it's getting a little bit gnarly. So it's looking like the screwdriver isn't going to do anything. This is so rusted up here as well that it ain't coming off. So don't really want to cut the rubber tube because I'm not quite sure what's going on with all of this yet. So I'm thinking of taking a hacksaw across the top of this just to break through the metal, so I can get this ring clip off, in which case I can then pop that last bit to get the radiator out. So yeah, bit of fun and games happening over on this side of the bike. That's what's going on. Okay, so that is the end of day 2 of whatever this is, ST4 build. It's been a good day. Every day working on a bike is a good day, right? So what we've done is we have drained the oil, drained the coolant, taken the radiator off, taken the airbox off, taken the front headlight bracket and assembly off, and in doing so, obviously taken the dash off, and in doing so I've disconnected the front wiring loom, which is something that scares the hell out of me, but it's all labelled up. Today it all makes sense. Will it make sense in a week, in a month, in 6 months, whenever this thing next gets looked at? But it's all there, it's done. And yeah, that's kind of it. Oh, the other thing you've noticed as well is that I didn't need that sandbox kind of idea. I managed to have a rejig and a rethink about the balancing of the bike on the crank, and it does work without touching the oil filter, which is good. So that's great. So now this thing wheels around the garage really nicely, so I can pull it out and work on it, and the whole thing is a little bit higher and easier to work on. So it's really starting to take shape. Really, really pleased. That's kind of it for now. So yeah, end of day 2. Let's see what day 3 brings. See you soon.